In the quiet sitting room of the Blanchefort estate, Prince Jacob waited, calmly examining a small portrait of young Bianca. When Count Blanchefort entered, Jacob greeted him cheerfully, holding out a bouquet of roses. "I was out for a walk and realized the Blanchefort residence was nearby," he said, handing the bouquet over. They're not as grand as the ones from Lahas Castle's gardens, but they'll do." The Count accepted them with a polite but stiff expression. Jacob's tone shifted slightly as he continued, "I would have preferred flowers from my sister-in-law's garden, or from Audely's. But well, I'm not exactly welcome there." He added with a smirk, "It'd be awkward if my brother saw how she blushes every time she sees me." Sitting down and tucking a rose behind his ear, Jacob continued with faux casualness. "Lately, I feel like an outcast." "Did something happen?" Count Blanchefort asked cautiously. Jacob explained that the king had recently held an audience with Count and Countess Arno in Audely's garden, an event Jacob had not been invited to. "They're the ones I was most eager to meet this year," he said. "It was strange being left out, but then I realized someone must have deliberately kept me away." The Count said nothing, but inwardly recalled his conversation with Prince Gautier. He had indeed taken steps to prevent Jacob from meeting the Arnos, at Gautier's request. Back in the present, Jacob recounted how he had gone to the audience chamber, only to find the king and Gautier absent. "I was about to go drink my frustration away, but then I happened to run into Count and Countess Arno anyway." Plucking a petal from the rose behind his ear, Jacob smiled thinly. "Someone thought they could keep me in the dark, but in Lahos and across Savon I have eyes and ears everywhere." He looked directly at the Count. "I'm done being excluded." Count Blanchefort remained composed, but he was alarmed. "He's more dangerous than I thought." Jacob continued. "You and Gautier once had a friendship. I wanted something like that, too. There was a man I admired, Zachary de Hughes, the second son of Viscount Hughes, a rising war hero. He later married and became Count Arno." Jacob's tone sharpened. "I lost the chance to be his friend, but I plan to change that. And it's not just Count Arno I'm interested in anymore. His wife is quite captivating." With that, Jacob smiled and left, leaving the Count uneasy. Outside, Joachim, who had been eavesdropping, rushed to his father. "Did he figure out what you did?" The Count nodded, setting the roses down. "He rattled off everything he wanted to say and left. He's clever, dangerous." Joachim asked about Jacob's mother, and the Count told him the long-whispered story, how the second queen consort, a close relative of the first queen, had secretly climbed into the king's bed while he was drunk. Jacob was the child born from that night. The scandal had nearly destroyed the royal family's unity. After the first queen died, the second queen returned to the palace, hoping to reclaim her place. But she was never truly loved. In the end, she took her own life, leaving Jacob behind, the Count explained. He grew up without love, and now I worry what he might do, raised by a kingdom that rejected him. Meanwhile, in his carriage, Jacob smirked as he examined his prize, the stolen childhood portrait of Bianca. "It's a shame he didn't have one of Countess Arno as an adult," he muttered, "but this will do." He turned to the man seated across from him, Viscount Hugh, Zachary's older brother. "As you discovered," Jacob said, "the Arnos and Blancheforts don't seem personally close. That's good. It means the bond is weaker than it appears. I want you to look for their cracks, agitate them, push them. Eventually, you'll not only inherit your brother's land, but his father-in-law's as well." Viscount Hughes remained silent as Jacob smiled coldly, already weaving his next move. The sun dipped low on the horizon as young Bianca sprinted through the fields, her voice hoarse with panic and grief. "Father, father, where are you?" she cried. "Jean is dead. I'm the only one left in this huge castle. I want to go home. I want to return to Blanchefort." Ahead, Count Blanchefort stood with his back turned. "Bianca," he said coolly without turning around, "I told you already. You cannot return to Blanchefort. Not under any circumstance. Not even if Joachim and I were gone." When he finally faced her, blood streaked his face. Bianca froze, stunned, but the scene suddenly shifted into a battlefield. Zachary, wounded and barely holding his spear, turned to her. "You may never return to Blanchefort, Bianca." Her eyes snapped open. She was back in her bed, drenched in sweat, Zachary gently dabbing her forehead with a cool cloth. "Are you awake?" he asked softly. "Where are we?" she murmured. "We're in Lahas. Zachary replied. You collapsed from exhaustion during the journey. Your fever spiked last night. Bianca closed her eyes again. Right? We're in Laos. Yvonne said she was going to find the best tailor today. Zachary noticed her worried look. Let's focus on your recovery first. When you're better, I'll have as many dresses made for you as you'd like. Bianca shook her head. It's not for me. It's for you, she said, resting a weak hand on his shoulder. Zachary blinked, surprised. You're worried about me while you're sick? He brushed her hair back gently. She's more thoughtful than I realized, he thought, watching her drift back to sleep. Despite having spent more time with Bianca since winter, Zachary still felt there was much he didn't know, especially about her fears and her complicated family. The next morning, Bianca sat with Yvonne, trying to look presentable. Yvonne, are the circles under my eyes too dark? She asked. Don't worry, madame, I'll cover them with powder. Zachary, seated nearby, stepped in with concern. You still have a fever. You should rest a few more days before we meet anyone. Bianca shook her head. There are too many engagement events for Prince Albert. You'll be busy. If I don't go now, when will I get the chance? Zachary sighed, still concerned. Your cheeks are pale. Then, Yvonne, use more blush, Bianca instructed. Before Yvonne could respond, Zachary got up and took the blush. Let me do it. Bianca's eyes widened as he carefully dabbed her cheeks. Like this? He asked. Their eyes met as he applied it gently. You don't have to do anything you don't want to, Etsy said softly. But if I do nothing, nothing changes, she answered, her voice low. I'm worried my father will think I've neglected your appearance. Zachary smiled. I'll come up with an excuse for that. As he finished, Bianca looked at the mirror and gasped. My lord, I look even more feverish than before. Zachary laughed awkwardly. That wasn't my intention. Yvonne stifled a laugh while Bianca, now flustered, asked for her makeup to be redone. Despite the light mood, as they neared Count Blanchefort's residence, Bianca's nerves took hold. Her hands trembled. Zachary gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Shall we? He asked, giving her a reassuring look. As the doors opened, Bianca caught sight of her father and brother. Her heart thudded. Joachim, now grown, stood tall beside their father. Joachim, she whispered. The room fell silent. Count Blanchefort looked at Bianca with disbelief. Gustave, he thought. She looks just like her. Joachim stepped forward, visibly emotional. You look just like our mother. Father, Bianca murmured. The Count approached them, addressing Zachary first. It's been a while. A late congratulations on your victory, Count Arno. Bianca's hand instinctively tightened around Zachary's. Thank you, my lord, Zachary replied, composed. Though you needn't be so formal, we now share the same rank. Count Blanchefort nodded. I heard His Majesty granted you audience in Princess Audalie's garden. A rare favor. I trust you'll serve Sevron well. Bianca stood frozen. Wasn't I the reason we came here? Why hasn't he said anything to me? Her grip on her dress tightened. To him, I'm nothing more than something he gave away. Finally, she stepped forward, tears building. You didn't wonder how I was doing, did you? She asked. Her voice cracked. You weren't curious whether I struggled after John died, or how I've lived since my marriage. Did you even remember you had a daughter, Count Blanchefort? The room was silent as her tears fell, her long-awaited confrontation finally spoken aloud. Yvonne stood quietly in the hallway, tears welling in her eyes. She had overheard the entire exchange, and her heart ached. Madame Bianca, she's been carrying this pain all along. Poor Madame Bianca, Yvonne murmured, her voice shaking. Beside her, Gaspard gave a solemn nod as they remained hidden from view. A sudden voice broke the stillness. Gaspard and Ms. Yvonne? Sauveur had arrived with Robert in tow. Gaspard stiffened, quickly whispering, Were you eavesdropping too? Sauveur arched a brow. Shouldn't I be asking you that? Yvonne gently placed a finger to Gaspard's lips. Shh! The Count is speaking, she whispered. Gaspard flushed, but said nothing as they continued listening. Inside the sitting room, Count Blanchefort's expression turned somber. I was grateful to you, of course, he said, his tone quieter. You never tried to come back. That gave me peace of mind. Bianca's hands trembled. It gave you peace of mind, she echoed, her voice tight. She looked up at him, her eyes burning. Do you really believe I never begged to return? I couldn't. I was 11, and you told me a lord's wife never leaves her territory, that I should draw my last breath there. that I must never think of coming back to Blanchefort. Tears streamed down her face as her voice broke. Do you remember that, father? Her anger and heartbreak hung heavy in the air. Then, realization. Bianca's eyes widened, her hand flying to her mouth. What have I done? Zachary was here. He heard everything. I've just told him I was abandoned by my family. Overwhelmed, Bianca turned and ran out of the room. Startled, Gaspard tugged Yvonne out of sight. Bianca stumbled down the hall, blinded by tears, until Zachary caught her in his arms. Bianca, he said gently. She looked up at him, her face streaked with tears, her breath shallow. Zachary saw clearly. She's worked so hard to prove she belongs, all to avoid being abandoned again. She's just like me. You told me once, he said softly, that nothing changes unless you act. But you don't have to fight so hard anymore. You don't need to change. You're enough, Bianca. Just stay by my side. That's more than enough. Her breath caught. His quiet assurance began to unravel the fear inside her. Zachary stepped back slightly, his eyes holding hers. And if you walk away now, you won't hear the rest of what your father has to say. Bianca froze. Count Blanchefort had followed them out, his expression full of regret. Bianca, he began slowly, you may look like your mother, but your spirit, that strength, that's mine. I knew you wouldn't break easily. His voice wavered. Back then, you cried for everything. You thought tears would get you whatever you wanted. I couldn't send that girl to Arno, so I spoke harshly, thinking it would toughen you. He swallowed hard, dabbing his eyes with a handkerchief. But you didn't need that. You're my daughter. You would have endured just fine. He looked down. The reason I never wrote you, not once, wasn't because I didn't care. I was afraid. If I wrote even a line, I would have begged you to come back. After sending you away, I wasn't strong enough to face you again. Then, turning to Zachary and Bianca, he said quietly, Count and Countess Arno, I shall take my leave. He covered his face as he walked away, his shoulders trembling. In the hallway, the knights and Yvonne stood in silent awe. From behind, Bianca's voice rose once more. You could have said you were sorry. You could have told me you missed me. Her voice was small, but it stopped her father in his tracks. I missed you, she added softly. I missed you and Joachim so much. Joachim rushed forward, wrapping his arms around her. Bianca, I missed you too, he sobbed. Startled, she stood still for a moment, then slowly hugged him back. Zachary watched quietly. She once told me Joachim takes after their father. Seeing him now, I believe it. But that quiet resolve, that's her father too. Count Blanchefort stood frozen, overwhelmed. Then, without hesitation, he dropped the handkerchief and stepped forward, pulling both children into his arms. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, he whispered, breaking into tears as the three embraced. Zachary quietly stepped out, closing the door behind him. Turning to the hallway, he spoke calmly. You lot. There were two of you before. When did the rest of you show up? Startled, the knights and Yvonne revealed themselves. Apologies, my lord, Robert said with a stiff bow. We thought you'd stay inside, Sauveur added, sheepish. Zachary gave a faint smile. It's a family reunion after 9 years. It only felt right to give them space. The door behind him opened suddenly. Bianca rushed out and wrapped her arms around him from behind. My lady? The group gasped in unison. Zachary stiffened in surprise, turning slightly. You can't just leave like that, Bianca said, her voice trembling. You don't know when the 3 crybabies of Blanchefort will stop bawling? Though her eyes were still red from crying, she smiled. I have something to say to you too, she said, stepping around to face him. Thank you for being with me on a day like this. Dear. Zachary stood frozen, struggling to speak. He looked away briefly, gulping hard, his expression mixed with surprise and emotion. After the emotional reunion with her family, ties between House Arno and House Blanchefort began to strengthen. Bianca and Zachary made frequent visits to the Blanchefort estate, and their shared meals and conversations brought a warmth that had long been absent. Yet even as Bianca's relationship with her family healed, a more subtle unease began to take root, this time with Zachary. Sitting quietly in their carriage, Bianca stole a glance at him. He sat with his chin propped on one hand, eyes on the passing scenery. Since that day when she had called him dear, he had grown distant again. Had she said too much? Was she wrong to express her feelings so openly? She remembered her earlier outburst, the moment she had declared their marriage a failure. And yet, rather than pushing her away, Zachary had embraced her, reassured her. That memory was both a comfort and a source of doubt. Unaware of her thoughts, Zachary glanced at Bianca. Her face, framed by loose hair, looked soft and contemplative. She's beautiful no matter the mood, he thought. But neither said a word. A silence, not hostile but heavy, filled the space between them. When they arrived at the Blanchefort Manor, the morning air smelled faintly of butter and baked bread. Over breakfast, a surprising revelation surfaced. "You may not know this, Count Arno," said Count Blanchefort, "but back when you first became a baron, Prince Jacob showed an unusual interest in you." Zachary looked up. "Prince Jacob? Really?" Bianca echoed, puzzled. The Count nodded. "At the time, Prince Gautier was backed by most major families. Jacob, in contrast, sought alliances with rising nobles. You, Count Arno, were among those he hoped to bring into his circle." Zachary's brow furrowed in thought. "That makes sense. The first time I met you, Bianca, I had come to Lajas at Prince Jacob's invitation. I arrived early and wandered the castle. That's when I encountered your father in the Queen Consort's garden. He proposed the marriage then." Bianca's eyes widened. Zachary looked away, a faint color brushing his cheeks. "The next day, Jacob abruptly canceled our meeting," Zachary added. "I suppose it was because I accepted the marriage proposal." Bianca turned to her father. "So, Jacob changed his mind because of me?" Count Blanchefort's tone turned cautious. "That's correct. He was furious to lose you to House Blanchefort. His resentment toward Zachary has been quite apparent since." Zachary gave a quiet nod. "He insulted us both during a chance encounter last winter." "There's more," the Count said. "Around that time, Jacob began taking an interest in you as well, Bianca. I made sure the two of you didn't meet." Bianca was caught off guard. "Why would he be interested in me?" "I don't know," he admitted. "But shortly after Jacob's visit to the manor, a portrait of you, one from your childhood, went missing. It was a small keepsake I carried during my travels. I'm almost certain Jacob took it." Bianca stared at him in disbelief. "He stole my portrait?" "He's ambitious and manipulative," Count Blanchefort said, his voice steady. "And he has informants everywhere. That's why I'm warning you both. Don't let your guard down. Not in Lajas, and not when you return home." Later that evening, the mood in the carriage was noticeably tense. Bianca's thoughts churned. So Jacob really did have feelings for me, she thought. I still remember the way he looked at me. It unsettled me. And now this? Stealing a portrait? That's not admiration. That's obsession. The thought made her stomach turn. "You look pale, madame," Yvonne said gently. "Are you unwell?" "Just a little indigestion," Bianca replied faintly. "Do we have any peppermint?" Yvonne shook her head. "I'm afraid not." Zachary immediately tapped on the carriage wall. "Stop the carriage, Gaspard." As it rolled to a halt, he turned to Bianca. "We left too soon after dinner. Let's get some air." She stepped out, still gripping her handkerchief. "I didn't mean to worry you." Zachary touched her back lightly. "You don't have to apologize." "Perhaps a short walk would help," he said. Then, to the others, "We'll return soon." Yvonne nodded, watching them go with concern. Meanwhile, Gaspard silently crossed the street to a small shop and returned moments later with a pouch of candy. He handed it to Yvonne without a word. "These are for me?" she asked, blushing. He nodded. "Thank you," she said softly, and the two sat side by side, quietly sharing the sweets. Elsewhere, Zachary and Bianca wandered through the lamplit streets, eventually stopping at a small hill with a view of the city. "It's warm in the day, but the night wind gets cold," Zachary said. "Is it too much?" Bianca looked away. "Now he's being considerate? After days of acting like nothing happened?" Her thoughts burned with confusion. Before she could reply, a familiar voice broke the quiet. "A romantic stroll at this hour?" Bianca froze. Seated on a nearby bench was none other than Prince Jacob, a book in hand. "I might have ignored someone else," he said with a polite smile, closing the book. "But I couldn't possibly overlook Count and Countess Arno. Good evening." Bianca's stomach twisted at the sight of him. She glanced at Zachary, whose jaw had tightened. Then another voice joined the scene. "You look well, Zachary." Viscount Hugh, Zachary's older brother, approached from the shadows. Zachary's reply was curt. "Brother." Bianca looked between the two men. "So that's him. The man who cast Zachary out. Just what is going on tonight?" The wind picked up and the tension in the air thickened. After returning from a long hunt, Zachary found his belongings dumped outside the estate. His expression tensed. Are all these mine, Vincent? He asked, disbelief lacing his voice. Vincent, sorting through the scattered items, looked up with hesitation. Yes, young master. Viscount Hughes ordered everything of yours to be moved out. A voice called down from the balcony above. Zachary! Come upstairs. Zachary dropped his gear and made his way inside. On the first floor, his older brother Roland stood by the window, wine glass in hand, watching the fading daylight. So, you've decided to throw my things out, Zachary said, voice steady. I was out hunting because the castle kitchens are empty. The servants haven't eaten well since father's funeral. Well, it's been 2 days since the coffin left, Zachary added. Roland didn't turn. 2 days is more than enough. Be thankful to Vincent. He begged me to wait. If not for him, I would have had you out the moment I became Viscount Hughes. Zachary's fingers clenched slightly. Why do you hate me, brother? Roland approached him slowly. When father remarried, our new mother treated me like her own. But the moment you were born, the attention shifted. I was forgotten. Zachary's eyes widened. Roland's voice was flat, bitter. There's no deeper reason. I've hated you ever since. Now leave. Get out of my sight, little brother. Zachary gathered his things, preparing to leave. At the gates, Vincent walked beside him. Thank you, Vincent. You should go back. Please, watch over him. But Vincent grabbed the bag from Zachary's shoulder. Young master, I'm going with you. Being a monk wouldn't suit you. You're meant to be a knight. Zachary blinked in surprise. You'll need someone to take care of you, Vincent said with a grin. So don't you dare die in battle. Zachary quickly wiped a tear. You might go hungry. Vincent laughed. Then we'll sell whatever you hunt. We'll survive. That day marked the end of Zachary's place in his childhood home, and the beginning of something else. Years later, standing beside Bianca in Lajas, Zachary's past came back without warning. In a garden overlooking the city, he faced Roland again for the first time in 13 years. You look well, Roland said, his tone light, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. Is Vincent still alive? Prince Jacob stood nearby, amused. Ah, you two know each other? Roland bowed politely. Count Arno is my younger brother, Your Highness. Jacob raised an eyebrow. How interesting. I wasn't aware. Zachary's posture stiffened, fists clenched at his sides. Beside him, Bianca reached out and held his hand. Don't forget, I'm here. Her calm voice grounded him, and his tension eased slightly. Zachary glanced down at her, and a quiet warmth filled his chest. She's nervous, but still composed. She's strong and endearing. This is my wife, said, meeting Roland's gaze directly. Oh? Roland chuckled. She's grown, but still looks like a child. I'd assumed she was your niece. So this is the Countess of Arno, married to my bastard brother just to secure his rise in nobility. How poetic. Bianca clutched Zachary's sleeve tightly. Her memories surged, whispers from her past life when she'd been mocked and shunned. The whore from Blanchefort, a shameful stain on Zachary de Arno. Roland had played a role in that humiliation then, too. Your Highness, Roland added with mock politeness. Did you know she was only 11 when my brother married her? 11, for ambition. That's enough, Viscount. Prince Jacob cut in, his voice cool. He placed a hand on Roland's shoulder. Weren't you calling this a brotherly reunion? Then behave like it. My apologies, Your Highness. Roland forced a smile. A poor display on my part. Don't apologize to me. Prince Jacob turned to Bianca. Apologize to her. Don't you agree, Viscount Hughes? Bianca's chest tightened at the prince's words. Why is he speaking to me so directly, in front of Zachary and his brother? Is he trying to provoke something? Zachary sensed her unease. Lackey gently squeezed her hand. Bianca, he said quietly, close your eyes. I'll take care of this. Without waiting, Zachary swept her into his arms. My apologies, he said coldly. My wife is unwell. The cold air's made it worse. We'll take our leave. Bianca flushed, stunned. What is he doing? Carrying me like this in front of Prince Jacob? It reminded her of the time he caught her after a riding lesson, but this felt more deliberate. Oh no, Bianca, you're burning up. Zachary said dramatically, his concern half feigned. We must get you back at once. He strode away, ignoring protests. Zachary, you insolent bastard! Prince Jacob called after him. Leaving without my permission? But before Zachary could respond, Jacob caught up, reaching out and taking Bianca's hand. Such a delicate wrist, the prince murmured, brushing his lips against it. You really must take better care of yourself. I'll send you a gift, Countess. Consider it fate that we've met again. Bianca's expression froze. Zachary's eyes darkened. The tension had only just begun. Thank you so much for watching this recap. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more manhwa summaries and updates.